Toby was a bright and cheerful 10-year-old boy, always full of energy and eager to learn. In school, he excelled, answering questions with confidence and making his classmates laugh with his clever jokes. He was the kind of boy everyone loved, kind, playful, and always ready to help a friend. But there was something no one knew about him. When the school bell rang and his classmates rushed home to loving arms, Toby walked into an empty house. His parents were hard-working traders in the bustling market, leaving home before sunrise and returning long after dark. While they worked tirelessly to provide for their family, they had little time for Toby. He understood, or at least tried to. "Mama, can't you stay home with me sometimes?" he would ask, his small voice laced with hope. His mother would shake her head, her hands busy tying her wrapper. "Toby, we work so you can have a better life. When you grow up, you will understand." And just like that, she would rush out, leaving him with only the silence of their home. Toby learned to manage his loneliness. He would sit by the window watching people pass by, pretending he had a different life, one where his parents were home, where they sat together at dinner and talked about their day. But instead he was alone. One evening, his mother came home with an idea. "You will stay with Sister Janet after school," she said. "She is a good woman and she will take care of you." Sister Janet was their neighbor, a kind woman known for her warm smiles and generous heart. She had no children of her own, but she treated everyone in the neighborhood like family. She was the kind of person who would stop to ask how you were doing and wait for your answer. When Toby first visited her home, he felt something he hadn't in a long time: attention. She welcomed him with open arms, offering him a plate of steaming jollof rice and a cold drink. Her house smelled of fresh flowers and home-cooked meals, and there was always soft gospel music playing in the background. "You are such a clever boy, Toby," she would say, ruffling his hair. "You remind me of my little brother when he was your age." The loneliness that had once weighed heavily on his small shoulders started to lift. With Sister Janet, afternoons were no longer spent staring out the window. Instead, they played board games, shared stories, and laughed together. For the first time in a long while, Toby felt seen. One afternoon, Sister Janet surprised him with a gift. "For my special boy," she said, handing him a small box wrapped in shiny paper. Toby's eyes widened as he tore it open. Inside was a toy he had longed for but never dared to ask his parents for. "A new video game," he gasped. "Sister Janet, this is the best gift ever." She smiled, watching his excitement. "You deserve it, Toby. Anything that makes you happy makes me happy." He played with his new toy for hours, laughing as he conquered levels and unlocked new adventures. Every time he won, Sister Janet clapped and cheered. Felt good to be praised, to feel special. He began to look forward to afternoons at her house more than ever before. But then something changed. At first, it was subtle little things he barely noticed. The way she hugged him a little too long. The way her hands lingered when she patted his back. Sometimes she stroked his hair slowly, whispering how handsome he was. Toby wasn't sure why, but it made him feel strange. One evening, as they sat on the couch, Sister Janet smiled at him differently. "I have another game for you," she whispered, her fingers tracing circles on his arm. Toby's stomach twisted. Something about her voice, about the way she looked at him, made him uneasy. Then, before he could react, her hands went into her trousers, touching his private part. His heart pounded. "Stop, Sister Janet," he cried, jerking away. She laughed softly as if he had said something silly. "Oh, Toby. Just a game. You'll like it." But he didn't. He wanted to run, to disappear. His chest felt tight and he couldn't breathe. He had never felt fear like this before. That night he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Sister Janet's face and heard her voice. He wanted to tell someone, but who? His parents were always too busy. His mother believed Sister Janet was a saint. Would she even believe him? The next morning, He woke up to something that made his fear worse. His bed was wet. His hands trembled as he touched the damp sheets. Was this because of what Sister Janet did? He felt ashamed, confused, scared. Toby no longer wanted to go to Sister Janet's house, but he didn't know how to say it. Every time he tried, his mother would shut him down. "Sister Janet is doing you a favor," she said. "You should be grateful." So he stayed silent. But he started avoiding her. He walked home slowly, taking detours through the market, hoping to waste enough time so his parents would already be home when he arrived. But they never were. Sister Janet noticed his change in behavior. "You don't like me anymore, do you?" she said one evening, a hint of sadness in her voice. "I thought we were friends." Toby wanted to scream, "Friends don't do what you did." But he was too afraid. So he forced a small smile and shook his head. "I like you, Sister Janet," he lied. But his body was tense, and she knew it. That night, as he lay in bed, he realized he couldn't keep this secret any longer. It was eating him up inside. But who would listen? The answer came the next day at school. His teacher, Mrs. Ease, watched him closely. She saw the way he no longer raised his hand in class, the way his usual bright smile had faded. And she knew something was wrong. "Toby," she said after class, her voice gentle, "is something bothering you? You can talk to me." Toby hesitated, his heart pounding. His lips trembled, but no words came out. Could he trust her? He looked into her kind eyes, and for the first time in days, he felt like maybe, just maybe, someone would believe him. The next day, Toby couldn't hold it in any longer. He was tired of feeling scared and alone. After class, while his classmates ran outside to play, he remained at his desk. His hands trembled as he walked up to Mrs. Ease's desk. She looked up and gave him a gentle smile. "Toby, is everything okay?" His throat felt dry. He wanted to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. Finally, he took a deep breath and whispered, "Sister Janet. She touches me in ways that make me feel bad." Mrs. Ease's eyes widened in shock. She immediately reached for his hands. "Oh, Toby," she said softly. "I'm so sorry you've been going through this. You did the right thing by telling me. It's not your fault. We're going to make sure you're safe." Tears welled up in Toby's eyes. For the first time in weeks, he felt a tiny bit of relief. Someone believed him. The very next day, Mrs. Ease reported the issue to the school principal. The school staff was horrified. They knew they had to act fast. They called Toby's parents and asked them to come to the school immediately. His parents arrived, looking confused and impatient. "Why did you call us here?" "We are busy," his father said. The principal took a deep breath and explained, "We received a report that Sister Janet has been harming Toby." He confided in Mrs. Ease about what has been happening. Toby's mother's face turned pale. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice shaking. "What has she done to my son?" "She has been touching him inappropriately and making him feel uncomfortable," the principal said firmly. "We believe Toby, and we must act quickly." At first, his mother didn't want to believe it. No, this can't be true. Sister Janet is a good woman. She's been helping us." But when she looked at Toby's face, his downcast eyes, his trembling hands, her heart sank. "Toby, is this true?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded slowly. "Yes, Mama. I told you, but you didn't listen." Tears streamed down her face. "Oh, my son. I'm so sorry." That afternoon, the police arrived at Sister Janet's house. The school had reported the incident, and the authorities took it seriously. Sister Janet was arrested immediately. "I didn't do anything," she protested. "Toby is lying. He loves coming to my house." But the officers didn't listen. The damage was done. Toby's parents watched in disbelief as their trusted neighbor was taken away in handcuffs. His mother held him tightly. "I'm so sorry, Toby. I should have listened to you. I should have protected you." His father, usually a man of few words, placed a hand on Toby's shoulder. "We failed you, son. But we won't ever let this happen again." After Sister Janet's arrest, Toby struggled with nightmares and fear. But his parents were determined to help him heal. They took him to a counselor, who gently guided him through his feelings. First it was hard. He didn't want to talk. He was still scared, still ashamed. But slowly he began to open up. "What happened to you wasn't your fault, Toby," the counselor told him. "You were very brave to speak up." His parents also made changes. His mother stopped working late every night. His father started spending more time at home. They listened more, hugged him more, and made sure he knew he was safe. "You can always talk to us," his mother said. "No matter what. We will listen." And slowly, Toby began to feel safe again. Months passed, and Toby started to smile more. His grades improved, and he no longer feared coming home. His teacher, Mrs. Ease, continued to check on him, reminding him that he was never alone. One day, as he sat at the dinner table with his parents, he looked up and said, "Thank you." His mother frowned. "For what, my dear?" "For believing me. For listening. For making me feel safe." His mother hugged him tightly. "Always, my son. Always." And for the first time in a long time, Toby knew he was